Welcome to Basketball Cinema, where we revisit the most important and iconic games in NBA history. I'm Jay Canada, and today we're looking at a 2013 first-round matchup between the Houston Rockets and OKC Thunder. For the first time here on the channel, the game we're covering today has absolutely no side plot, no important context that makes the game compelling. It's just a straightforward first-round playoff matchup, the likes of which we can focus solely on the action. Yeah, that's a complete lie. I just misled all of you. Complete and utter fabrication. In 2012, a young and promising OKC Thunder team led by Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden fell in 5 games to LeBron James and the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. While that was certainly a blow, smart money was being put on this Thunder core to win at least one title together in the coming years. That bet, however, would be rendered a loser when on October 27th, 2012, just 3 days before the start of the 2012 season, the Thunder traded Harden in a blockbuster deal off to the Houston Rockets. Now, there is a lot to unpack about the deal, and I'm sure NBA fans, well, you probably know the gist of it, but I'll try to add even more context for y'all. The short version of why OKC felt compelled to move Harden in the first place was that they were unable to come to an agreement after months of negotiation on a requisite contract extension for Harden, who would be coming out of his rookie deal at the end of the 2013 season. Many other teams, including the Houston Rockets, had made public their willingness to give Harden a max contract in the summer of 2013, when Harden would become a restricted free agent. Now, conventional wisdom would obviously have been to simply give Harden a max deal. I mean, he had just won 6th Man of the Year and was clearly a developing star. Evidently, though, that wasn't the Thunder's MO.
But they didn't want to give Harden the max. Their position was everyone who's re-signed here has sacrificed a little something, even Durant, even Russell Westbrook, so they were looking for Harden to be willing to take a little less than the max to stay.
I mean, okay, sure, Harden didn't want to budge and take less money. Certainly a tough pill to swallow considering both KD and Russ had sacrificed a bit for the team. But the story gets baffling when you consider the Thunder reportedly offered Harden a 4-year, $55 million deal. And the deal Houston eventually gave for the max was 5 years at $80 million. Now, I'll save you the effort of trying to do that math in your head and just tell you. Harden's annual average value on the Houston deal was $16 million. The deal OKC offered was just shy of $14 million. OKC got bent out of shape and dealt Harden instead of bucking up for another $2 million per year. I mean, that is bonkers. Now, before any historians jump on me, I will concede that the subtext to the subtext of why OKC wasn't willing to pay that much for Harden was that giving him the max contract on top of what they were paying Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, and Kendrick Perkins would have pushed them into the luxury tax. Again, fair enough, small market team, that is a tough pill to swallow. Except when you consider, like 5 minutes later, OKC was paying into the luxury tax during both the 2014 and 15 season. I mean, what? Again, I'll say here, this story has been told and retold a million times at this point, but it's just so unbelievable. There was a legitimate, conceivable way to keep Durant, Westbrook, Harden, and Ibaka all on the roster, and OKC simply opted out of it. Meanwhile, all this money talk could have been rendered moot had the return for Harden from Houston been substantial. Spoiler alert, it was not. OKC received Kevin Martin, Jeremy Lamb, 2 first-rounders which turned into Steven Adams and Mitch McGary, also a 2nd-rounder which became Alex Abrinas. I mean, that's just... wow, that's
garbage. That's total garbage.
I mean, yeah. Basically, in some cases, trading a star player makes sense. For example, when the Thunder traded Paul George to the Clippers. I mean, that was a legitimately overwhelming return. But trading James Harden had to have been a cautionary tale for every GM in the NBA. And I can't imagine a team ever getting washed in a trade so badly ever again. Especially not a trade including the Houston Rockets. And especially not another blockbuster trade including James Harden. There's just no chance. I promise this is the last take I'll share on the trade. James Harden was still under contract through the 2012-13 season. OKC didn't want to risk losing him for free after the season as I outlined, but instead of trading him when they did, they simply could have kept him and ran it back for another shot at the championship in 2013. But I mean, when you have a chance to acquire Kevin Martin and Jeremy Lamb, I guess you've got to do it. With all that being said, Harden immediately made an impact on the Rockets franchise, making the Thunder look foolish for trading him right from day one.
James Harden deserved every penny of the max contract.
No denial here. He absolutely did.
He backed it up and made a resounding statement that echoed all the way back to my hometown of Oklahoma City. You blew it, Thunder.
Harden would go on to make third-team All-NBA, leading Houston to a playoff berth in the West. The Thunder also did flourish in 2013, even without Harden, finishing with a 60-22 record and the first seed in the West, with Durant making first and Westbrook making second-team All-NBA. As fate would have it, 6 months after being dealt from the Thunder, James Harden and his Rockets would face OKC in the first round of the 2013 NBA playoffs. Could OKC's former friend turned foe reverse a 2-0 series deficit at home in Game 3? Or would the Slim Reaper arrive to collect the souls of the Houston Rockets once and for all? Let's find out together. Somehow, despite me taking about 9 years to actually get to the action in this video, I neglected to mention one further subplot to this specific game. In Game 2 of this series, Patrick Beverley injured Russell Westbrook's knee going for a steal as Russ was gearing up to call a timeout. Now, this incident has been widely discussed and was the inciting incident for a beef that has now spanned almost a decade between the two. Your mileage may vary on whether you think it was a dirty play or not, but regardless, Westbrook was revealed to have a tear in his meniscus as a result and missed the remainder of the playoffs. This was a blow to OKC's title hopes in 2013 and certainly brought the Thunder and Rockets' talent on paper level much closer together. Omer Asik getting the scoring underway with a spoon-fed hoop under the rim. Meanwhile, 30 seconds into the game, Kendrick Perkins setting the tone by dropping a shoulder on Patrick Beverley. Not sure that accomplished anything, but there you go, Perk. The Thunder defense told Chandler Parsons to pivot, and he told them to shut up as he connected on his first deep attempt of the game. After a Durant turnover, James Harden moving and grooving in transition for an easy lay-in. Jeremy Lin was in the starting lineup for the Rockets. He hit an early deep 2, but Reggie Jackson, starting in place of Westbrook, answered for OKC with a corner 3. I was super excited when I saw and remembered that Jeremy Lin was a part of this Rockets team in 2013. I'm sure at one point here on the channel we'll dive into Lin's sanity, because what an insane stretch in the NBA that was. But for now, I'll give you a quick synopsis of where he was at in his career. The infamous Lin sanity run occurred during February and March of 2012, as Lin took the reins as starting point guard for the New York Knicks. He would play in 26 games and average 19 points, 8 assists per game, captivating the attention of the entire basketball world. Again, I'll emphasize, it all happened in just 26 games. Lin missed the final chunk of the 2012 season and playoffs before signing with Houston in the offseason. What I failed to remember was that despite never reaching peak Linsanity heights again, Jeremy did average 13 points, 5 assists per game in his 2 seasons in Houston. That's not terrible. He was also reasonably productive in each of his stops in the ensuing years. Unfortunately, he was playing injured at this point in the Rockets Thunder playoff series and failed to make an impact. And unfortunately, he never captured the true essence of Linsanity ever again. 4.5 minutes into the game, Kevin Durant finally began to operate. A patented pull-up midi, drawing the foul on Pat Bev and cashing in and one. Next, he got out his scalpel and carved up Chandler Parsons another pull-up midi. Kendrick Perkins took a lesson from KD, hitting the most awkward-looking mid-range jumper I think I've ever seen. Good stuff, Perk. Old man Derek Fisher relocating perfectly to the corner for a wide-open 3. KD clearly in a groove in the early going.
As Durant fires and buries a triple.
Kevin missed winning his 4th consecutive scoring title in 2013 by less than a point a game. He'd win his 4th in 5 years though in 2014. Omer Asik was an unfortunate victim, as point forward Durant attacked the rim and detonated with authority. Harden with the answer, a perfect off-ball cut and feed from Carlos Delfino to set up the crown. Kevin Martin getting on the board with his first 3 of the game, extending the Thunder lead to 15 now in the first. By the way, what's the deal with people who have 2 first names? Kevin Martin? I mean, you've already got a milquetoast last name, then your parents double down and give you a bland first name too? That's a tough beat. Yeah, that wasn't very good. Stand-up comedy, not my thing. Another dunk for Kevin Durant coming off a pick and roll, using his 19-foot-long arms in a truly unfair manner. And as if his ability to poster the Rockets into an oblivion wasn't deadly enough, how about another bomb?
Durant with a pull-up 3, and Kevin Durant almost matching the Rockets. He's got 17 here in the first quarter, and the lead is 20.
Yeah, that was a pretty productive first quarter. While Scott Brooks was busy giving us some cliched coach speak, Durant with his 3rd triple of the game to give him 20 already. By the way, Kevin, I've been meaning to ask you, who does Houston belong to?
I don't know about that one, but
Oh, well, okay then, thanks. Chandler Parsons going to work, off the dribble, converting a tough and one. I'll admit that I had a hearty chuckle rewatching this game, seeing the man, the myth, the legend, Chandler Parsons in action. Parsons made All-Rookie in 2012 after being a second-round pick of the Rockets. In this, his sophomore campaign, Parsons averaged just shy of 16 points a game, and was actually really good in this series against the Thunder, averaging 18 a game while playing 40 minutes a night. His tenure in Houston was short-lived, as he was offer-sheeted as an RFA, which resulted in him playing a pair of reasonably productive seasons in Dallas. However, things changed quickly in his story in 2016. He inked a remarkable 4-year, $94 million deal with Memphis and would go on to suit up in just 95 games over the next 3 seasons as he routinely battled injury. Chandler has gone down in history for being an iconic big money free agency flop, which I argue is unfair. I mean, my guy still holds the record for most threes made in one half. No, seriously, go look it up. Francisco, that's fun to say. Garcia started to heat up in the second Q, a 3 in transition from the left corner. He was then ran off the line but was able to put the ball on the floor and finish in traffic. Next, he flared to the right corner for another jumper, this time a deep 2. Finally, from the deep right wing, he faced up and banged his second 3 of the game. Unfortunately for Houston though, during that Garcia renaissance, OKC hit a bunch of free throws and got a corner triple from Kevin Martin to maintain their lead. Kevin Martin is a name that is always fascinating to me when I see or hear it brought up. He is the unfortunate distinction in this context of being part of the tragic haul OKC received from Houston in the Harden deal. But that's an unfair brush to paint his career with. Martin is a sneaky 2000s NBA trivia answer, as in 08-09 he averaged a legit 25 points a game for the Sacramento Kings on over 40% from deep. Over a 4-year stretch from 07 through 2011, Kmart produced 23 a game on solid percentages. He was obviously never going to fill the shoes left by Harden as the Thunder 6th man, but his production was slashed to just 14 points a game during his season in OKC, which was certainly not an indicator for the type of contributor he had been in his career. In addition, Martin's Thunder tenure was ended as he was shipped to Minnesota in a sign and trade deal, which netted OKC this guy. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. To close the first half, James Harden finally doing his thing and getting to the free throw line to cut into the lead. But Durant also matched James with a pair of buckets with time waning, and the Thunder took a 15-point lead into the third quarter. So the story of the first half in Game 3 was obviously Kevin Durant, outplaying James Harden on the other side by a wide margin. In case you guys were wondering, a second-year Patrick Beverley was just as irritating as he is today, incredulously complaining after smacking Reggie Jackson in the back of the head. Like, that's a foul, my guy. Harden was finally able to get loose in the third.
Harden, a much-needed 3 for the Rockets, his first triple of the game, and it's a 14-point contest.
And that would ignite a bit of a comeback for Houston. Durant finally cooled off, missing a fader in the paint, then a long-range step-back 3. Garcia a good-looking step back of his own for 2, and after a sloppy KD turnover, Pat Bev finishing with a layup on the fast break. Thabo Sefolosha finally hitting a 3 for the Thunder. He was just 1 for 7 on the game, but Harden with a quick answer, floating to the rack with his signature left hand. Kevin Martin had 12 points in the first half. He was off on a deep 2-point jumper. Once again, Harden answering with a very tough finish around Serge Ibaka. Incredibly difficult finish then off the window by Chandler Parsons, and the Rockets had finally cut the lead to single digits, and the Toyota Center was a rockin'. One final flurry to end the third quarter of Game 3. Francisco Garcia his third triple of the game from the far corner. Durant with the answer, looking like the god of thunder as he dropped Mjolnir all over Terrence Jones. But James Harden had the final say.
Harden, 3-pointer, he's good! 4-point game.
And now you see why I chose to cover this game. The aforementioned Terrence Jones opening the scoring in the fourth with an and-one dunk off a Carlos Delfino dime. Kevin Durant shot just 1 for 7 in the third. He got to the free throw line on his first touch of the quarter. With 8.5 remaining in the game, Durant simply walking up the court and into a rhythm mid-range jumper. But Carlos Delfino with a quick answer for the Rockets, connecting on a straightaway 3-ball. This was a 2-point game in Houston. A big-time shot made by Derek Fisher from the corner was a foot on the line 2-pointer. Delfino his second consecutive make from the land beyond to bring the score back to within 1. Kevin Durant a super tough finish with his right hand in the lane, but Harden was able to blitz the rim and draw contact, getting to the line for a couple freebies. Durant managed to careen to the rim, draw contact, and head to the line where he converted a pair of his own. But with the answer Sixer finally bringing Houston all the way back to a level plane. It was Parsons from Harden.
Shot clock at 4. Here's Harden giving it up to Parsons. A 3. It's good! And we're tied at 91.
Great shot from Chandler. I mean, could he be any more wide open? Kevin Durant facing up Harden on the perimeter, a rip-through move, and because the Thunder were in the bonus, KD back to the line for a pair. Now under 4 minutes remaining, the Rockets able to take the lead for the first time since the first quarter. Carlos Delfino again, his third 3 of the game from the corner. After a KD miss, Serge Ibaka a big board and bigger jumper connecting on the fade. Serge Ibaka has really been a guy to hit random big shots in big moments right from day one of his career. Under 3 minutes left now, Kevin Martin coming up way short on a deep attempt. After a Parsons turnover for Houston, Martin was once again left wide open. This was a really rough go for my guy. James Harden with a wildly careless turnover, simply chucking a pass directly out of bounds. Finally, OKC was able to make them pay, as once again Serge Ibaka with a huge make, contorting his body underneath for the finish. Harden atoning for his previous mistake, barreling to the rack and drawing a foul on Ibaka. Unfortunately for the Thunder, the clock struck midnight for Serge, and he missed what would have been a huge shot from the elbow. James Harden back the other way, slashing and facilitating to a T, setting up.
Garcia for 3. It's good! And the Rockets lead it by 2. Timeout, Thunder.
Massive contributions all game from Francisco Garcia. So the onus was back on the Thunder, and specifically Kevin Durant. He had gone 6 minutes in the fourth without a field goal, and was just 3 for 13 in the second half. But don't worry, this isn't me doubting the man formerly known as Durantula.
And here's Durant, picked up by Garcia. Durant will take the 3. Off the rim and in. It's good, and the Thunder lead it by 1. And Durant has tied a career playoff high with 41 points.
Give the man 41 in the game, a gargantuan shot for OKC to give him the lead. Quick shout out to the forgiving rims in Houston as well. Just like that, the spotlight back on James Harden and the Rockets, and what? James, my guy, what was that? Not that he had to do much, it was such a horrible play, but a big steal from Derek Fisher nonetheless. Fisher would cold-bloodedly connect on a pair of free throws with 12 seconds left, and that would be all she wrote for Houston. Harden a quick layup, but Reggie Jackson money from the stripe, and the Rockets simply ran out of real estate. I hate to summarize this game in such a layman's way, but Kevin Durant outshone James Harden on the big stage, and that was that. After falling behind 3-0 in this series, the Houston Rockets were actually able to claw back and win games 4 and 5 to extend the series to 6. However, Durant outpaced Harden in that deciding game, and the Rockets were sent home packing. Unfortunately, without Westbrook though, the Thunder ended up falling very quickly in the second round to Memphis. Trying to summarize the legacy of this game and this moment in time for all parties involved is a near impossible task, as it's still currently being written. 8 years later, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook are all still among the upper echelon of NBA players. It would be irresponsible for me to suggest that had Harden not been traded, all three would still be killing it together on OKC, but I do feel comfortable saying they probably would have won at least one title together before going their separate ways. Instead, Harden became the centerpiece in Houston, developed into a truly elite NBA player, won an MVP award in 2018, and may have had ultimate team success had he not been thwarted on multiple occasions by the dynasty Golden State Warriors. Meanwhile, the Thunder enjoyed 4 more uber successful seasons being shepherded by Westbrook and Durant, but never crested the conference finals. Despite cycling through a number of different supporting pieces, OKC was never able to curate the correct winning formula around their 2 stars. Ironically, they frequently lamented the lack of a third perimeter scoring threat to put them over the top. By now, everybody and their uncle already knows how the story unfolded. Durant leaves to Golden State.
First off, I love you, Russ.
He wins 2 titles alongside Steph Curry. Russell Westbrook takes his individual game to another level, but fails to deliver any sort of postseason success to the Thunder. Westbrook would fruitlessly spend the 2019-20 season alongside Harden in Houston before being dealt to Washington, while Harden would eventually force his way out of Houston and be traded to Brooklyn to play alongside Durant. If you're watching this video a few weeks, months, maybe years after its release, there's a strong possibility that Durant and Harden have won a championship together with the Nets. If that comes to fruition, it'll be yet another compelling chapter in the long, confusing, incestuous story of the former OKC Big Three. For each game covered here on Basketball Cinema, I'll be giving out 3 awards, beginning with the Clint Hawkeye Barton Award for Most Underrated Performer.
I don't care.
Which goes to Derek Fisher. D-Fish was 38 years old in this moment and had settled into a true veteran leadership role, playing about 14 minutes a night for the Thunder during the regular season. After Russ went down to injury in Game 2, Fisher was thrust into a bigger role and would play 25 to 30 minutes a night the rest of the playoffs, including Game 3 where he contributed 9 points and was a steadying presence for the team, specifically in the fourth quarter. The Rick Dalton Award for Most Recognizable Moment goes to this sequence from our guy James Harden.
Here's Harden with 7 to shoot, draws contact, and they did not blow the whistle that time. And then Harden has it blocked by Ibaka, who led the league in that category.
Ah yes, 2013, James Harden's first season in Houston, also his first of 7 times in 8 seasons leading the league in free throw attempts, as he became known for his flopping and or ref baiting. To be fair, that was 2 Oscar-worthy flails in the span of like 4 seconds, and he didn't get a whistle. And finally, the Mark Jackson,
With all due respect,
Award for Weirdest Moment in this game goes to this comment made on the broadcast by John Barry.
Don't worry about the defensive end. He can get out of the way, but boy, the way he plays so aggressive, he's going to have to watch himself.
Oh yes, John. Foul trouble or not, James Harden would actually become synonymous with getting out of the way on defense. And that's it. The OKC Thunder beat the Houston Rockets 104-101 in Game 3 on April 27th, 2013. Kevin Durant showed why he was being regarded as the best scorer in the league at the time, pulling out the W even without Russell Westbrook. If you enjoyed this episode of the show, please consider dropping a like down below. And if you can see yourself watching a few more of these, or maybe a lot, I would suggest hitting that big ol' subscribe button. Also, please leave me a comment on literally anything from this video. We discussed a lot, and all those comments help the YouTube algorithm. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well, at JCanada10, to get a tease for next week's episode. But until then, I'm JCanada, and this has been Basketball Cinema. And may have OKC was obviously have simply been to, and was a steadying presence. The deal OKC offered was just another blockbuster, big money free agency flop, which, to close the first half, the infamous Linsanity run occurred during March, oh my word, 19 foot,